I love Backyard Bible Club, and the reason we started it is years ago we used to do VBS, which is in-house, and I would say 90% of the kids that came were churched. And even they would come from other churches, but they were still churched. And so we decided to be in our backyards and invite our neighbors, and because we're called to love our neighbors, and we're called to be in community, we're called to reach out to the lost. And so loving on these kids right where they are, I mean, they're hearing lies from the world every day. Their identity is coming from terrible places, and we want it to come from Christ. And so I have a real passion for kids because, I mean, Jesus did. He said, let the little children come to me. And so we would just start by asking our neighbors to come over. And I think this is my 9th year doing it in my backyard, and I have people call me because they want to plan their vacation based off of the Backyard Bible Club. And you literally see kids walking down the streets. And they don't go to church necessarily. They don't want to go in a church building. It's scary to them, but to come in someone's backyard and do some craft and song and story and games. And then the last night we always end with a block party kind of thing, and where parents are invited, we share the songs. Then it just causes the neighbors to know, hey, we're a safe place to land. So I've had so many conversations with neighbors, with kids, with the community, just about life after that. So many wins about having it in your backyard. And it is a lot more work in the sense of in my house. You know, I have to hand over my house for the week, but it is unbelievably worth it. And it's what we're called to do. We're called to just disciple people and to love on people right where they're at and do life on life. And it looks different in every single neighborhood. It doesn't always look like mine. So we have ones that, you know, are super large and some are super small, but it doesn't matter. We're just willing to invite our neighbors, and it's just so worth it. And what happened last year is we had at least 21 youth group helpers, and they were leading the songs and skit and games, and they were group leaders. They were unbelievable. And these little ones that come there, they were like, oh, these are the cool kids, you know. And so you do not have to be a theologian, or you just have to be willing. And it takes an army. It takes an army to do it well. We want to make sure these kids are safe. We want to make sure we're in small groups so we can really minister to them. This year we're actually going to have a part where we are opening the Bible and running through the gospel, and then offering Bibles to the kids who don't have one. And then we were hoping that we'll have a testimony from a youth kid that's sharing to these families just like what God's doing. And all of us can step up, whether it's just praying for our neighbors, whether it's actually serving in one of these, whether it's providing snack. There's not a lot of skill that takes in certain areas, but just willing and to love on these kids and be an extra hand is huge. And so we have a multiple different options. Check with me and we'll get you plugged in. But just know this, who knows, next year if you come to a Backyard Bible Club, maybe next year you'll host in your neighborhood, and we can be praying over that neighborhood for the next year and see what God does. But it's mind-blowing what God can do in your backyard. And these kids are the next generation, and just to look at them and I'm like, oh, if God has mercy on them and we just come alongside and be willing. Can you imagine if they come to Christ and their kids come to Christ and so on, and just His kingdom being built? And so first thing is just praying for these kids and then loving on them. But I personally have a heart for it just because we're in a war zone, and we're not promised tomorrow. And so I look at them and I think, I might not have an opportunity tomorrow to talk to them, but I have an opportunity today. And so utilizing every day that I have, and oh yeah, I give up 4 days in my house. For what? For a future. So I'm not looking at today. I'm looking at, we're doing this for eternal purposes. We're doing this to further God's kingdom.